every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello, good evening and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Frank Omalape. And our top stories tonight. Nigerian troops retake Baga from the Boko Haram terror group. Also in this program, presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, continues his United Kingdom working visit with a closed-door meeting with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola says he has added value to governance in the state and Nigeria. And outside Nigeria, United States Secretary of State John Kerry warns Russia to expect tougher sanctions for its acts of subversion in Ukraine. Thank you for joining us tonight. Nigeria's military authorities say troops have retaken the strategic northeast town of Baga from Boko Haram insurgents. The town, located in the fringes of Lake Chad, was the base of the multinational Joint Task Force until recently, when insurgents took over the community alongside the military base. But Defense Headquarters on Saturday said through a Twitter feed that soldiers have pushed out the terrorists after a fierce battle. It noted that Boko Haram suffered heavy casualties and added that mapping operations are ongoing in the community and surrounding areas. Meanwhile, a large number of Boko Haram insurgents have drowned in the Lake Chad as they fled the heavy bombardment by the Nigeria Air Force, heralding the advance of troops, a mission to flush them out of Baga. Though the number of the dead terrorists was not given, it was said that many of them met their Waterloo as they fled the aerial attacks by NAF jets on Baga, the location of multinational Joint Task Force Base 6 by the sect in January 2015. A statement by the Director of Defense Information, Chris Olukolade in Abuja, said the insurgent had buried landmines in over 1,500 spots on the routes leading to the town. It said all the landmines were skillfully cleared one after the other, noting that the mining of the grounds could not save the terrorists from the aggressive move of advancing troops. Olukolade said apart from the 5 anti-aircraft guns and the rifles captured from the terrorists, over 34 motorcycles and 5 vehicles, including trucks being used for operations by the terrorists, were destroyed in the course of the fighting as troops headed for Baga, noting that the troops finally began clearing the terrorists on arrival in the town early Saturday morning. And now, the President Goodluck Jonathan has continued his consultation towards the 2015 general elections in Lagos with a meeting with the Council of Obas and the Ekpe Division of Lagos State at the Palace of Alara of Ilara, Akin Popola Adesina in Ilara. The president, while speaking at the Alara's palace, says the Nigerian military will recapture all territories held by the Boko Haram terror group within the next few weeks. The president also promised to complete all ongoing projects, including those at the conception stage if he is re-elected. Kazim Kasali was there, has more in this report presented from our studios.
The president, who arrived by helicopter from his commissioning of a rehabilitated section of the Egbin power plant, and was accompanied on the trip by the top brass of his party, says his presence and that of the party's top echelon shows the party's respect for the traditional institutions. He added that the trip is also aimed at bringing governors closer to the people, while also adding that the issue of holding of territory by the Boko Haram terror group will soon be over.
Especially the issue of terror. At least we'll be telling them that we have some limitation, but now we can say that at least we equip our armed forces with excellent that we can contain the terror. And we say that we should watch out what will happen in the next 2 weeks. God willing, we'll take all our territories that they
On the general elections, the president says his re-election will see to the continued advancement of Nigeria and also the completion of all ongoing projects, including those at the conception stage. He urges the traditional institution to continue to support him and also bless him ahead of the presidential election.
That will bring maximum benefit to our people. Most of them have gone to almost terminal level. A lot of them have progressed. We believe that if I give the opportunity for the next 4 years, most of this will be.
Responding on behalf of the Obas, Oloja of Ekpe, Hamaruddin Animashao, says the traditional institution will continue to support government at all levels, but also asks that the president bring more development to the division.
One of our problems in the Ekpe division is about the electricity. We are far behind electricity problems in this division, because like I said, it's a very big problem in this division. We have no light in months, years. In fact, I can say 4 years. We would like to president to assist us to this. Because when there is no light, there is no any business that can move in this division.
The Alara of Ilara, Hakim Adesoyan, later blessed the president for the elections. Earlier, chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Adamu Muazu, said the party will always respect the traditional institution, irrespective of class.
And our President Goodluck Jonathan also met with the Alafi of Oyo, Lamidi Adeyemi, and the Soun of Ogbomoso after his earlier meeting with the Ekpe Divisional Council of Oba. While speaking at the palace of the Soun of Ogbomoso, President Jonathan says he will complete all ongoing projects in all around Ogbomoso. He asked the monarch, Jimoh Oyenwumi, to hand over the list to the Minister of State, FCT, Jumoke Akijide, promising to attend to them between now and the end of the elections. Jonathan said while his administration has done much and continues to do so, it will consolidate on its achievement if he is re-elected in March. He listed the areas his administration has transformed to include agriculture, education, power, and health, amongst others. He said only the People's Democratic Party government can implement the report of the National Conference, while other parties will lock it up inside a cupboard. The president reiterated his position that with his administration power reforms and full privatization of the sector, Nigerians will take power supply for granted within the next few years. And now the extradition process initiated against all Nigerians who fled to the country after allegedly murdering 18-year-old Briton in the United Kingdom failed to go ahead as scheduled at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Abdul Kikirieko is wanted for the murder of one Marcus Hall outside a nightclub in Luton, England, about 14 years ago. The other culprits have been tried and jailed, but Kikirieko had been on the run until his arrest in Lagos. Trial Judge Justice Mohammed adjourned the matter to March 31 and remanded the respondent in Kuje prison after his counsel, Salihu, asked for a short adjournment because he was served the court processes at a short notice. Prosecuting counsel Akuta from Office of the Attorney General of the Federation did not object, but insists on the suspect's transfer from EFCC custody to prison. EFCC said in a statement that the UK police had difficulties tracking Kekereekun down because he frequently disguises himself with about 10 aliases. He was, however, arrested by operatives of the Commission on February 12, 2015, with the support of the National Crime Agency for identity theft-related offences, only for checks to reveal that he's on the wanted list in UK. And now operatives of the National Drug Law and Enforcement Agency have arrested a suspected drug courier in Kaduna for alleged possession of 780 bags of India hemp weighing 241.9 kg. NDLEA State Commandant Samuel Azigi said at a news conference that the agency had been trailing the suspect following an intelligence report on his activities. Samuel added that it was more worrisome that the illicit drug was to be distributed within the week the election was to hold before it was shifted.
That would have done to this country if this Indian hemp had been allowed to go into circulation. This exhibit was supposed to be released into circulation at the week with the election, the general election was to take place in Nigeria. But sometimes the parents don't monitor their movement. When they go out, they mingle with people of different characters and then they introduce them to so many vices.
I finished my secondary school. No money to further my education. I went to the bush to look for a job. So I found them doing it, so I entered into it.
The war on vandals, which the affected security agencies have described as one that can only be won by interagency cooperation, has again yielded fruits with the parade of vandals of both the pipelines of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and cables of the Keja Electricity Distribution Company. A correspondent, Patience Ajiboye, has details. Later on, you're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Join us again.
From time immemorial, women have birthed life, shaped character, and by extension, influenced the society. Moremi of Ife, Emoten of Benin, Queen Aminat of Zaria, all women of influence and power.
Whether it's before election, after election.
How ironical. Women being so powerful, yet have few grounds in decision making.
They see you as a wife, and I see you as a wife to a man.
We are talking women in politics.
A woman will be bold enough to stand up and say, I want to become president of Nigeria.
Only on CoreTV News.
This is CoreTV Primetime News. If you just join us, this is a quick reminder of our top stories. Nigerian troops retake Baga from the Boko Haram terror group. Presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, continues his United Kingdom working visit with a closed-door meeting with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. And Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola says he has added value to governance in the state in Nigeria. You can also reach us on our social media platforms like our Facebook page is facebook.com/CoreTV News. You can as well follow us at CoreTV News NG. And for live streaming, log on to www.youtube.com/CoreTV, leave a space, the news. And now, Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Farushil on Friday alleged that the All Progressive Congress presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari will travel to the United Kingdom for a supposed working visit is in a London hospital. According to him, Buhari is being treated at a hospital located at Cavendish Street, Cavendish Square, W2 London West End, London. The governor said this had vindicated his earlier stand that Buhari was sick and lacked the required capacity to rule Nigeria. Speaking through his special assistant on public communications and new media, Lere Olayinka, the governor described the claim by the APC that Buhari will give a talk at the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Chatham House, London, as it is seat taken too far. He says he's not mocking Buhari or wishing him dead, but rather to expose the falsehood of the APC and desperation of its leaders, especially Senator Bola Tinubu, to force another Yaradua saga on Nigeria. The governor challenged the APC to prove him wrong. The National Publicity Secretary of the APC, however, said his party was not ready to join issues with unserious people, adding that those who are doubting General Buhari's working visit could not be taken seriously and that they should prove it. Presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, has held the first of the consultative meetings in his itinerary in the United Kingdom. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair was the first personality Buhari held a closed-door meeting with as part of efforts to brief key members of the international community on his agenda for Nigeria. The APC candidate was accompanied by two leading members of the opposition party, Ogun State Governor Ibikunle Amosu and Senator Bukola Saraki. A party source said Buhari will be holding a series of private meetings with policymakers in the UK to disabuse their minds about his alleged autocratic and Islamic tendencies. Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola has said that his administration has done a lot to improve the living conditions of the citizenry. Speaking at an interactive section with State House correspondent at his Marina residence on Friday, Fashola said that his administration has added value to governance and described attack on his administration by the opposition as unfair, insisting that he had done so much to improve the living standard of the people since he had assumed office in 2007. According to him, all the sectors of the state economy, including housing, education, and revenue generation, have witnessed significant improvement under his watch as governor. Fashola also said that he had added value to governance when he took over from his predecessor, Bola Tinubu. He, however, said governance is a continuous process, stressing that it is not a finished job and will never pretend to anybody that the job has finished. The governor described the governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Akinwumi Ambode, as an experienced technocrat capable of moving the state forward. Answering question on why the state retained the death penalty in its criminal law, Fashola said it was based on a survey which showed that residents favored the death sentence for armed robbers and murderers. The governor restated his commitments towards the development of the state. And now, as the statement of the Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola on the inability of the Lagos PDP governorship candidate in the general election, Jimi Agbaje, to pay the land use charge of his pharmaceutical firm for some years continues to generate reactions. Fashola says the firm has remitted 500,000 naira out of the alleged over 1 million naira debt. The governor made the disclosure at a media interaction with members of the Lagos State Governor's press crew at the Marina Government House. He says the remittance by JK Pharmaceutical Firm vindicated his earlier statement on the issue.
First, he said JK is not Jimi Agbaje. JK Pharmacy has resigned. Now he has gone to pay 500,000 out of 1.6 million. He's still owing. He published some receipt about a few days ago that this is 500 and something thousand. So it's true now that he was owing 1.6. He's still owing. He must pay because that money belongs to the local government.
Lagos State governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Jimi Agbaje, has promised the people of the state that he will deliver an ocean-based economy for the people of the state. He said just like the people of the north and other places rely on their most abundant resources to drive growth, he will drive growth through the ocean and through that the addition of value to all activities based around the ocean.
Lagos, through Ekpe and Bejuleki axis, for example, can actually be the national fish processing zone or processing hub for Nigeria. That means that our fishermen don't have to catch fish and sell at any price on the day they catch fish. So you begin to talk about the value chain that is associated. They can store their fish. You begin to make, other things, sardines and things like that. So you begin to process. That is the beginning. From there, you look at the boats that they use. By the time they're able to store their fish, then they need bigger boats. You need to have people who begin to build those boats. So you want to know that in this part of the state, those boats will be built. You're going to use engines. People are going to repair the engines. They're going to talk about trawlers. You're going to talk about fishing nets. So, in diversifying the economy, which is the way forward, we're saying that is some aspect that we have to look at. And that, in a nutshell, is what the ocean economy is talking about.
You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. We take another break. We'll be back with business, sport, and stories outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
And in business now, lending rates fell to an average of 25% on Friday from a record high of 95% last week after the central bank left about 100 billion naira in treasury bills. Nigeria stood about 142 billion naira in treasury bills with maturity ranging between 3 months and 1 year this week. The state-owned energy company NNPC has also recorded some of its deposits, with banks cutting back on the level of available liquidity for transactions in the system. And now the Naira on Friday extended losses against the dollar at the Bureau de Change segment as it fell to 221.80 kobo. 2 days after the Central Bank of Nigeria closed the retail Dutch auction system. The CBN had on Wednesday said all demands for foreign exchange should be channeled to the interbank market in a bid to stem round-tripping speculative demand, rent-seeking, spurious demand, and inefficient use of scarce foreign exchange resources. Today, the Naira exchanged for 221 Naira 80 kobo to a dollar, and the parallel market as foreign scarcity continues amid scavenging demand, while the pound sterling trades around 331 Naira to £1. Euro trades for 245 per euro. Now, Apple has been accused of poaching employees from a company that makes batteries for electric cars, fueling speculation the iPhone makers is thinking about entering the auto market. A Massachusetts company, 223 Systems, claim Apple recently embarked on an aggressive campaign to poach its highly paid employees and raid its business. It believes Apple is currently developing a large-scale battery division to compete in the very same field as A123 makes lithium-ion batteries used to power vehicles like the Chevrolet Spark. In a lawsuit filed earlier this week in a federal court in Massachusetts, it does not specify what the engineers at issue were working on. However, it's not clear yet that any efforts by Apple to develop advanced battery technology are tied to cars versus other traditional products, and Apple also frequently invests in areas it never ultimately enters. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with sports story and other stories. Do join us again.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website, www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
In sports, Britain's Mo Farah broke the 2-mile indoor world record with a super run at the Birmingham Indoor Grand Prix. Farah left the field behind as he stormed home in a time of 8 minutes, 3-4 seconds, breaking Kenesiso Bekel's previous record of 8 minutes 4 seconds. It is the double Olympic champion's first world record. The build-up to Saturday's race had been dominated by a row with Great Britain teammate Andy Vernon. Farah claimed Vernon had questioned his nationality after the double Olympic champions won European 10,000-meter gold in 2014, with Vernon describing that as a huge misrepresentation. And in Premier League now, Chelsea had the manager mastic sent off as the Premier League leaders were held to a draw by relegation battling Burnley. Brasliva's Ivanovic puts the Blues ahead when he slotted in Dean Hazard scores, and Ivanovic shot struck Michael Kinley's arm, and Diego Costa was pushed by Jason Shackle as the home side had 2 penalty appeals rejected. Another result, Stoke City grabbed an all-important away win with a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. Arsenal followed suit with same scoreline over Crystal Palace. Hull City 2-1 home win over QPR. Sunderland goalless with Swansea. Manchester United lost 2-1 to Swansea, while Manchester City close to gap with league leader Chelsea with a convincing victory over Newcastle. And now Nigeria under-23 spanked their counterparts from Gabon 4-1 in a first leg qualifier for the 2015 All-Africa Games in Libreville on Saturday. Ajayi Jr. grabbed a brace in the second and 46 minutes, while Oge Nekaro at table also hit target in the 44 minutes through a penalty. Substitute Peter Onyekachi wrapped up the big road win in the 88th minute. The hosts, who are the reigning African under-23 champions, pulled a goal back in the 43rd minute. The returning leg match will be played in Nigeria in a fortnight. And outside Nigeria now, the US and UK are considering deeper sanctions against Russia following the recent events in the eastern Ukraine conflict. Speaking during a visit to London, US Secretary of State John Kerry accused Moscow of craven behavior in its support for the rebels undermining a ceasefire. But the Kremlin spokesman said sanctions would not help solve Ukraine's crisis. The ceasefire agreed this month in Minsk has often seemed near collapse. Each side accuses the other of multiple breaches of the truce in recent hours, but the rebels announced a prisoner exchange as part of the ceasefire. Between 35 and 39 Ukrainian soldiers and 37 people held by the Ukrainian government are to be freed in the Luhansk region. Meanwhile, an advisor to Ukrainian President Yuri Berikov said the Ukrainian death toll in last week's battle for the key town of Devaltseve was possibly 179, with 81 missing, a much higher figure than previously announced. The rebels took the strategic transport hub in spite of the ceasefire signed on 12 February, arguing that the truce did not apply to the flashpoint town, forcing government troops to repeat the Ukrainian government, Western leaders and NATO. Says there is a clear evidence that Russia is helping the rebels in eastern Ukraine with heavy weapons and soldiers. Independent experts echo that accusation. Moscow denies it, insisting that any Russians serving with the rebels are volunteers. Nearly 5,700 people have died since the fighting erupted last April, and some 1.5 million people have fled their homes, according to the UN. Speaking before talks with the UK Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond, said Kerry additional sanctions were on the agenda. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov responded by urging the US and Europe to support the implementation of the Minsk agreement. And our Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has one of real difficulties ahead of his government faces a Monday deadline to submit a list of reforms to lenders. Under a deal agreed on Friday, the lease must be approved by the international creditors in order for Greece to secure a 4-month extension of its bailout. The deal is widely regarded as a major climb down for the government, who won power, vowing to reverse budget cuts. He hailed the agreement as a decisive step that achieved much towards ending austerity. The Greek cabinet is discussing the potential list of reforms which must be approved before the Eurozone members ratify the bailout extension on Tuesday. Analysts say a collapse of the deal will revive fears of an exit from the euro, a so-called Grexit, something both the EU and Greece say they want to avoid. You are still watching CoreTV Primetime News, but just before we go, here is a recap of our stories. We told you that Nigerian troops retake Baga from the Boko Haram terror group. We also reported that presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, continues his United Kingdom working visit with a closed-door meeting with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Finally, Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola says he has added value to governance in the state of Nigeria. Well, thank you very much for being part of CoreTV Primetime News tonight. I am Franco Omalape on behalf of the entire news crew. Have a good night.